In the arid expanse of New Mexico's desert, a group of men, fully clad in protective clothing, is observed measuring the radiation levels present in that region. During the ongoing activities, one of the individuals was unexpectedly surprised by a wounded man, yet they hadn't had the chance to offer help. In the meantime, nearby the earlier site, an elderly man lived in a house that was also a gas station, fully detached from the surrounding society. The old man was roused from his sleep by peculiar sounds that he heard outside. He briefly called for a woman named Ruby, but no one replied, so he remained quiet. After that, he walked towards a former mining site located in the area where the government had previously conducted nuclear tests. The man then arrived at the entrance of the mine and kept calling Ruby's name. Since he couldn't locate Ruby, the gentleman subsequently went back to his house and discovered a satchel directly outside his entrance. Upon realizing the situation, the gentleman abruptly yelled out, declaring that he absolutely refused to continue with the action any longer. After finishing, the man then brought his bag inside the house and found several items within it. As he was thoroughly searching through that bag, he discovered possessions belonging to other individuals, notably something repulsive contained within a receptacle, accompanied by a photograph of a romantic couple. Not long after, a vehicle arrived outside, honking its horn. That vehicle seemingly belonged to the family planning a trip to San Diego, yet they were required to traverse this particular desert area of New Mexico. The family unit was composed of the father, whose name was Carter, a former police officer, his wife Ethel, and their offspring, specifically Lynn, Bobby, and also Brenda. Besides them, there was also Lynn's husband named Doug, and their little daughter named Catherine, including a pair of dogs named Beauty and also Beast. The reason they stopped by this location was to put gas in the automobile and thoroughly inspect the condition of the vehicle's engine. Knowing this, the old man then inquired about the Carter family's destination, to which Ethel replied that they deliberately intended to travel across the desert specifically to take in the view. At the same time, Brenda, having exited the vehicle, called out to Bobby to point out a pig that she had discovered. But because he wasn't interested, Bobby preferred to go relieve himself. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a pair of mysterious feet suddenly emerged and absconded with a red garment without the knowledge of anyone present. Shortly thereafter, one of the dogs, specifically Beauty, abruptly exited the vehicle and entered the shop. Brenda, who knew it, immediately followed the animal inside. Brenda managed to find her dog, which seemed to be barking at the window. Well, just as he turned around, the old man suddenly appeared and startled him.
Can I help you, miss?
I'm sorry, it's just our dog. She just...
After Brenda left, the man then suspiciously looked at the bag they had previously found. From there, he went back out and met the Carter family, who were ready to depart. That elderly gentleman then proceeded to tell Carter about a secret, quicker route that they were able to utilize in order to conserve the amount of time needed for their entire trip. And to reach that shortcut, they only needed to turn after passing the barrier fence.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Funny lies over this.
On the way, Brenda, positioned at the front, continuously grumbled about the great distance of their travel, whereas Lynn, her older sibling, urged everyone to maintain composure and peacefully savor the journey. In the trailer behind, Bobby was assisting with repairing the AC unit, causing Doug to become somewhat exasperated because of the intense heat prevalent in this area. Shortly thereafter, they appeared to be drawing near the spot the elderly gentleman had previously indicated, but right in the middle of their discussion, their vehicle unexpectedly struck a bed of nails deliberately spread by an unknown person, resulting in them losing control of the vehicle. Because of the panic, every single person then exited the vehicle, including all of their dogs, which were just running about without any clear direction. This situation then confused the Carter family, because besides being in this remote, unknown location, they were also having trouble getting a signal. Plus, their vehicle had now also broken down. Meanwhile, Bobby apparently managed to bring back his dogs that had previously been wandering. But without his knowledge, he was apparently being watched by someone from a distance.
There, you shitheads.
As soon as they were all back together, this family then made the decision to spend the night there while they contemplated the best way for them to go about finding assistance. In order to preemptively deal with any undesirable situations that might arise, Carter grabbed a few firearms and handed a handgun over to his son, who is Bobby. At first, Ethel was against it, but taking into account the circumstances they were currently facing, and knowing this wasn't the initial occasion Bobby had handled a firearm, the mother ultimately gave her consent. On the other hand, Lynn, intending to fetch some clothes for her husband, unintentionally caught sight of a light reflecting in the distance through the window pane. But since Bobby was distracting her at that particular time, Lynn was quickly diverted, and by the time she attempted to look back at the spot, that light reflection had already vanished. Outdoors, Carter is formulating a plan with Doc, in which the two of them decide to separate in order to search for assistance by walking. According to the plan, Carter is supposed to go back to the filling station, while Doc intends to seek assistance from someone as soon as he locates the main road. Prior to departing, this family of Carters makes the decision to engage in prayer together, not realizing that they are being observed from afar by an unknown person. Their dog started barking constantly after Doc and Carter left. Brenda and Bobby then began to joke around, suggesting that Beauty and Beast were barking because they had spotted a snake in the vicinity. One of the dogs, whose name is Beauty, subsequently managed to get away while Brenda was attempting to enter the trailer. Bobby, who noticed this, rapidly pursued her, and due to how far she had gone, Bobby unintentionally reached an extremely isolated location. It was here that Bobby heard Beauty's story, which heightened his sense of caution. Following that, Bobby discovered a blood trail and started tracking it. In his escape, Bobby stumbled and tumbled right into a pit, causing him to pass out completely. As Bobby lost consciousness, a little girl in a red dress named Ruby suddenly approached him. However, when Ruby wanted to check Bobby's condition, she realized that her brother named Google had also shown up while eating the remains of Beauty. At the same time, Doc, who was actively seeking assistance, reached a spot littered with quite a few vehicles that had been left to decay. Curious, Doc then checked the vehicles one by one in order to find something that might be useful. During the evening hours, Carter, who was also searching for assistance, eventually made it to a petrol station. He attempted to call out for the owner they had encountered previously, but without realizing it, Carter was in fact being trailed by another person. Because Carter did not find that old gentleman, he subsequently made the decision to search his residence. In this location, he discovered a satchel holding the identical belongings that the elderly gentleman had previously located. Feeling that something was highly suspicious, Carter then proceeded to draw his firearm and step into a specific room, within which he saw several sheets of newspaper tacked to the wall. By examining those newspapers, Carter became aware that this location had previously been utilized by the government for the purpose of conducting atomic weapon experimentation. Besides already being a mining area, he also found several residents affected by the side effects of nuclear radiation. Understanding that he had committed an error by putting faith in the old man's statements, Carter subsequently resolved to go back to his relatives. When intending to leave using the old man's vehicle, Carter suddenly saw the old man's pair of feet while calling out Jupiter's name. Carter then moved closer and proceeded to open the door, only to discover that the owner of the gas station appeared to be heavily intoxicated and weeping, with a handgun resting right next to him.
Hurry!
Daddy.
Carter, confused by what had just occurred, was then startled once more by the sound of someone calling out for his father. Carter subsequently went back to the vehicle, but at the very moment he was already situated inside. Following a rather serious injury, Carter was then brought by a mysterious individual called Jupiter deep inside a mine shaft. Just before losing consciousness, Carter caught a glimpse of the assailant's face alongside another mysterious person who was addressed as Pluto. Over in the trailer, Brenda, who was feeling anxious, then attempted to locate where her brother might be. A short distance away, Bobby, who remained unconscious, was still being watched over by the young girl who had discovered him previously. Upon hearing Brenda's voice, the girl appeared visibly scared and quickly retreated. Subsequently, Bobby regained consciousness and was discovered by Brenda. When she got back, his mother and his older siblings immediately began inquiring about the true sequence of events. But due to being severely shocked, Bobby was unable to articulate the events that befell him. Then, as they were conversing, their dog, Beast, abruptly began to bark loudly. Feeling that something was amiss, Bobby then took his pistol and quickly went out to investigate the situation. Upon stepping outside, he found out that his dog had managed to escape by breaking free from its chain. As Bobby was calling for the dog, he was startled by Doc, who had apparently returned. Here, Doc informed the others regarding the crater he discovered, and also mentioned to them that he could not locate any main roads or other alternate routes while Doc was conducting his search. Long story short, while everyone else was asleep, Bobby, who was still awake, heard his dog barking in the distance. Without hesitating any further, Bobby then went outside immediately to search for that dog of his, but he forgot to lock the door. Out of the blue, two human-like figures, namely Pluto and his companion Lizard, managed to get inside the trailer and attempted to molest Brenda. In the vehicle, Bobby, who was panicking upon hearing the sound of someone laughing, then came back and woke up both Lynn and Doc, who were sleeping inside the car. At this point, Bobby mentioned that it appeared as though someone was observing every single one of them. Driven by curiosity, Doc subsequently exited the vehicle to attempt an inspection.
You stay here, you lock the car, okay?
However, right when they were about to step inside the trailer, the mutant human immediately contacted his friend Google, who was waiting outside to create a diversion by showing Carter, who was bound and subsequently immolated, alive.
Brenda, watch baby!
Upon hearing her child's cries, Lynn swiftly ran back inside the trailer. As soon as she arrived, she noticed two peculiar-looking individuals who were carrying her baby, and a second one was fondling her younger sibling. Regrettably, Lynn was powerless to intervene when Lizard aimed a firearm directly at the infant. The corpse, it seemed, also desired to participate in groping Celine's body. Sensing that something was amiss, Ethel then picked up a stone and headed back toward the trailer. When she got there, she saw that both of her daughters were in peril. However, it was unfortunate because right at the moment she prepared to hurl the stone, still not satisfied with his recent action, the Lizard immediately fired his pistol once more at the very moment Lynn was driving the screwdriver deep into his leg. That single gunshot resulted in Lynn's death, an event which immediately made Brenda let out a completely wild and chaotic scream. Ultimately, both of these monstrous beings departed while carrying the infant, leaving Brenda behind because they were completely depleted of all their bullets. Brenda! Meanwhile, Google is apparently still monitoring Bobby and his family, as they still don't seem satisfied with the cruelty they have inflicted. So, while they were thoroughly enjoying their peeking, out of the blue he was assaulted by the bus, which resulted in his death at that moment. Within the trailer, Bobby, completely unsure of his next move, can only lament and observe his mother, who is currently in a near-death state. Amidst the atmosphere saturated with terror, they abruptly heard a noise emanating from the exterior. With swift action, Doc extinguished the lights while Bobby instantly fired his pistol in the direction of the door. The shot indeed hit nothing, but once outside, they found a severed arm complete with a communication radio. Becoming suspicious of the radio, Doc then hurried to grab it, which was immediately followed by the return of the bus. Via that radio broadcast, Dr. Doc then made a strong demand for those mutant people to willingly give back his daughter who had been abducted. However, instead of receiving any response or cooperation, those mutants deliberately displayed the weeping sounds coming from the small daughter.
Give me back my little girl, you hear me?
The following morning, Doc, having lost his patience, then decided to go and save his daughter. By utilizing a bus, he successfully tracked the location of the mutants' hiding spot somewhere. Carrying a single flashlight, Doc proceeded to enter an old derelict mine. Inside, he discovered absolutely nothing. But after walking a considerable distance, Doc reached an exit point, where he subsequently found a small box situated in a secluded area. At the same time, Bobby, along with Brenda, was currently occupied setting up multiple traps in anticipation anticipation of those villains coming back again. Well, returning to Doc at this moment, he was mustering the bravery to explore the town he had just stumbled upon. That town resembled a ghost town, completely lacking any life and looking extremely arid and desolate. Amidst his search, Doc heard a generator noise emanating from within a house, and upon investigating it, Doc successfully located his daughter, who was inside a specific room. But just as he was about to save her, after making sure it was safe, Doc then slowly exited and left the bus inside the vehicle. He then proceeded to walk stealthily toward the house, which turned out to have a mutant woman named Big Mama inside watching the television set. Taking advantage of the situation, Doc secretly managed to take his daughter. But just as he was about to leave the house, a few hours went by, and the dog, who had been passed out before, awoke to discover he was now situated within a large freezer packed full of stacks of human corpses. In a state of panic over the sight before him, the dog then exerted maximum effort to break free, ultimately succeeding in forcing his way out of the confines of the freezer. Meanwhile, the bus, which had been trapped inside the car, also made its escape after discovering a small opening located underneath the vehicle. Once outside, the canine rapidly began searching for the location of the dog, who was currently creeping stealthily in an effort to locate his female offspring. During his extensive search, the dog discovered the dead body of Carter positioned in a seat, accompanied by numerous life-sized mannequin figures placed in all the various corners of the chamber. So, in one of the rooms, the doctor discovered a handicapped gentleman called Big Brain, appearing utterly powerless while seated in his examination chair. When asked where his daughter was hidden, the man replied that he did not know. Big Brain even claimed that everything that happened was the government's fault for intentionally conducting nuclear tests without caring about the remaining residents. Amidst this tense scenario, Pluto abruptly burst in through the doorway, brandishing an axe and attempting to assault Doc. During that fight, Beast also showed up and tried to help Doc, who was cornered. Although he managed to hide for a while, Doc was still caught when Pluto succeeded in breaking through all the barriers. As Doc was about to be eliminated, he seized an opportunity by driving a screwdriver into Pluto's leg. From there, he then took the United States flag stuck in Carter's head and thrust it into Pluto's neck. And after being rendered helpless, Doc quickly finished off Pluto using his own axe. After finishing off Pluto, Doc, who was overcome with rage, then went out and finished off another disabled person who happened to be walking to that location. Doc struck his leg, causing him to fall down, where he immediately finished him off using the back of the axe. Big Brain, who saw all this chaos, immediately contacted Laser and ordered him to finish off the baby. However, when he was done, at the same time, Doc, having successfully located a rifle, immediately departed to search for his beloved daughter. However, upon entering the premises, he discovered that his daughter was nowhere to be found. It appears that the infant was successfully rescued by Ruby, who cleverly deceived Lizard by exchanging the baby for a pig. Meanwhile, deep in the desert, Bobby and Brenda, who were keeping watch over their surroundings, were suddenly shocked by the sound of the alarm system they had installed going off. Initially, they assumed the alarm was triggered because some undergrowth had brushed against the boundary wire. However, upon their return, they discovered with shock that the corpse of their mother, which was inside the vehicle, had in fact been stolen. Amidst this rising panic, Bobby urgently instructed Brenda to get inside and ready the contingency plan they had devised, while he would personally track the blood trail left by his mother. During his pursuit, Bobby discovered Jupiter, the leader of the mutants, consuming his mother's remains. Aware of the presence of another person, the monstrous creature instantly gave chase to Bobby as he fled toward the trailer that Brenda had set up.
go, get.
At a different location, the doctor, who knew his child had been taken by someone in a red jacket, then tried to follow them. When arriving at an area, Ruby apparently tried to hand over her daughter to the doctor, but she didn't manage to do it in time. Realizing that Dog likely wouldn't be able to hold on, Ruby swiftly carried the infant to safety. Fortunately, however, Dog was still able to recover and pursue, simultaneously striking Lizard from the rear. Dog fired his weapon multiple times to confirm that Lizard was completely eliminated. Regrettably, though, at the very moment Ruby was entrusting her little girl, in the meantime, following the blast, Bobby and Brenda, while they were checking things over, discovered that Jupiter had somehow survived. Without wasting any time, Brenda, who was fed up, then ran over and finished him off with an axe. So, once all the chaos had concluded, the doctor ultimately came back together with his young daughter, and also Bish, at which point the trio embraced one another in order to let go of all the profound sorrow that had tragically impacted them. However, in the midst of that situation, without realizing it, they were actually being watched by a mutant human figure from a distance. And that concludes the storyline for the movie The Hills Have Eyes, which premiered in the year 2006. I truly hope that you all enjoyed our little story for this day. I sincerely thank all of you who took the time to watch, and we will meet again during the next available occasion. Ciao!